And the whole purpose of the Progressive States Network is to move an agenda across this nation up through the states where we're actually trying to accomplish one thing in 50 different places. And you all know, because you've already done this, whether it was health reform way before the federal government even thought about doing it, states had already done it. Whether it was reforming welfare, no matter how you felt about it, states had already done it. Whether it was looking at criminal justice policy, states had already done it. Whether it was looking at education policy, states had already done it. And we know going into this new administration, we have to link up even more so we can gain as much as we can in this time.
What we're trying to do here is trying to basically use this moment in as many places as possible, this political moment, this economic moment, to finally enact so many of the things that so many of you have been pushing for so long.
To have legislators being part, not just of a legislator group, but since we're meeting with EARN, with advocates, as part of a movement that together can actually plan how to make the states, state by state, an engine of national change.
Across the country, we are grappling with unprecedented budget deficits. And it is going to be essential that federal government come online and that the bailouts and the restructurings and the stimulus packages are tailored to work with and meet the needs in the states and the needs on the ground.
How do we start a discussion? How do we build networks throughout the states that can really talk about economic growth strategies in the states in a different way? I think there is an opening here, and we have to seize it and start changing, not just a little bit on this policy, that policy, but some fundamental discussions about what's been wrong.
I guess the best answer to how government can be considered effective is to be effective. This is what progressives, a radical notion, this is what progressives do. We figure out how to use the instruments of power available to us to improve the quality of people's lives.
Now that we can get back to a world of sort of common sense that people had before all the people in the lead said, no, it makes perfect sense to deregulate everything and let things. We now know a lot of different things that we can do.
Increasing wages.
Raising taxes on the wealthy.
Medicaid or S-chip or state employee plans.
Immigrant integration.
National popular vote. Job quality standards.
Fiber to the home.
Broadband deployment councils.
Employee classification.
Transparency issues.
Clean energy, green jobs.
Improve our education systems.
Remove the red tape from enrollment.
As progressives, we know that the more people we bring to the polls and the more those people represent the population as a whole, the more progressives are going to have electoral victories.
Lowering and eliminating barriers to political participation, particularly for historically marginalized communities.
A system of universal or automatic registration where basically the government bears the primary responsibility for getting people on the rolls.
4 states have already passed the National Popular Vote Plan. A bunch of states have passed it in one chamber. 21 chambers have now passed it out of only 99 in the country. And if we get states passing it that represent a majority of the country, a majority of the Electoral College, by end of 2011, early 2012, the next election will be a national popular vote for president.
This 21st century economy will be geared through and built with pipelines, but it won't be oil, it'll be megabits.
There are huge savings that can come from leveraging broadband to cost-saving mechanisms in healthcare and environmental stuff.
Jobs will be created, greenhouse gas emissions will be cut down.
What I think is great about the Broadband Deployment Council strategy in this year, especially when a lot of states are suffering from budget woes, it's a low-cost initiative, but at the same time, it's setting up every state to be prepared when federal money is going to become available during a stimulus package.
We're faced with the problem of lack of data as to what's working in the U.S., lack of data as to what's working abroad, in terms of comparative what policies seem to work. And people are trying to gather that, trying to get the data. But one way to get data is to actually have states that are acting as laboratories, passing legislation, trying different things that are working in their state at their local level.
So things are bad. We all know that people are afraid of the declining wages, that the economy is bad, and they have decided to take it on immigrants.
One of the things that we've been working with state legislators on is to really talk about immigration in a proactive, positive fashion.
Really address the problem that's happening, the root cause of this problem, which is, in our view, employer violation of labor law and wage enforcement.
We're going to be going over wage enforcement.
And I think that this wage enforcement model is the most brilliant move I've seen on immigration since I've started working here. So, you know, hats off to you guys for figuring that out.
The principles are we don't really have any place in our state for scofflaw employers. States have a fundamental role in healthcare.
Out of the 615,000 uninsured in our state, we insured 442.
God bless them if they go forward with health care reform comprehensively at the federal level. But let's fight at the state level to go forward too.
If someone else is doing it, so can you. And if one state can do it, then 2 states, and 5 states, and 20 states.
We need to make sure that whatever is done at the federal level is a floor on which we can build up.
The federal government is, if we leave them to doing what they've done in the past, not only will we be left behind, but they will not succeed.
The health care is going to come from us. It's going to come from the states. And it might look a little different in Washington than it does in Wisconsin than it does in Iowa. But this is where it's going to come from.
I want to be at the ground level. I want to be talking about how to organize it.
We have crises in this country which are very deep and systemic, the problems, and we have a window of opportunity to deal with them. And I think everyone who's going to present here today, myself included, is a true believer that if we don't have more democracy, if we don't have more participation, if we don't have better ways for people to engage their leaders and control the conditions of their existence, that these problems won't be solved.
The urgency is real. I think that means for the Progressive States Network, and I think it means for all of you in working in your own legislatures, that now is the time, more than ever, not to take no for an answer.
Anyone here from Oregon?
Oregon.